The story of human rights begins with a simple truth that every person is born with dignity and freedom. These rights are not granted by any government or society. They exist simply because we are human. Over centuries, thinkers like John Locke, Lee and Hegel shape our understanding of these universal rights, rights that protect equality, justice, and the freedom to live with respect. Today, they remain and the moral foundation of a fair and humane world.
Human rights are the basic rights and freedoms that every person is entitled to simply because they are human. According to the Oxford and Cambridge dictionaries, human rights refer to the fundamental rights such as justice, equality, and freedom that belong to all individuals regardless of their race, gender, religion, or background. These rights cannot be taken away except under lawful circumstances. From the scholar's point of view, Rohad E. Howard defined human rights as the rights on hold by being human, while Henkin described them as political idea rooted in moral values. Thomas Bergendahl adds that they are legal protection against government abuse. In essence, human rights combine both moral and legal values.
Now, we will talk about secularism and humanism as the foundation for human rights. Secularism is a fundamental concept for protecting universal human rights because it ensures that government remains neutral in matter of religions and beliefs. It doesn't attack religion. Instead, it guarantees that no one is forced or favored to follow any particular faith. This principle protects one of the most basic human rights, the freedom of conscience, the right to believe, to change belief, or to not believe at all. In a diverse society, this neutrality is crucial. It allows people of different faith or none at all to coexist peacefully, while ensuring everyone is treated equally before the law. When the state identifies with a single religion, minorities often face discrimination or marginalization. A secular system prevents that by protecting all citizens equally, regardless of their beliefs. Secularism also plays an important role in promoting gender equality. It allows civil laws, those that govern personal status, inheritance, and bodily autonomy, to be based on universal human rights, not on religious interpretation that could disadvantage certain groups. In the end, secularism and human rights reinforce one another. It creates a fair system where both freedom of religion and freedom from religion are protected, allowing dignity, equality, and justice to flourish for everyone.
We understand that human rights are universal, but what is their true foundation? Our investigation shows that it rests on two essential and complementary pillars: secularism and humanism. Where secularism gives us the political framework, humanism provides the moral purpose. Humanism is the ethical core. It asserts that every human possesses inherent dignity and worth simply by existing. This philosophical commitment moves beyond doctrine, relying instead on human reason to guide our ethics. This means fundamental rights like life, liberty, and equality are not granted by a ruler or a specific faith. They are an intrinsic quality of being human. Humanism emphasizes the autonomy of the individual and the active promotion of human welfare, justifying the protection of every person's freedom and dignity. When secularism and humanism combine, they create an enforceable system of universal justice. Secularism acts as the legal blueprint, the how. It establishes a state that is neutral in matters of belief, ensuring legal equality for all people, regardless of their background. It protects the freedom of conscience and ensures that laws are derived from civic reason, not specific religious authority. This is vital for guaranteeing standards like gender equality in a diverse society. And in turn, humanism supplies the model mandate, the why. Its focus on welfare justifies the state's positive duty to realize second-generation economic and social rights. These are the rights to essentials like healthcare, education, and housing, the prerequisites for a dignified existence. The modern idea of human rights therefore stands firm. Secularism makes rights non-discriminatory and enforceable, while humanism mandates that those rights exist in the first place, placing the value and dignity of every human being at the very center of our civilization.
The theories of human rights generally explain what rights are, where they come from, and why they bind individuals and states. The natural rights theory is a concept presented by John Locke, a 17th century philosopher whose ideas greatly shaped contemporary political ideology. Legal rights are those bestowed upon a person by a given legal system, which is more than a mere moral claim or personal desire. It denotes an interest that the legal system formally recognizes and protects. Social rights are rights arising from the social contract. Philosophers like Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill advocated for this view. They are moral, legal, or societal rules and an understanding of what is necessary to fulfill people's social needs. Historical rights theory, on the other hand, holds that rights arise from a society's lived practices, customs, and traditions rather than from a single philosophical source or abstract principle. Under this view, what communities have long treated as acceptable or necessary gradually acquires legal force. And finally, economic rights theory treats rights as instruments of power rather than as moral entitlements. It evaluates who actually holds rights by looking at the capacity to assert and secure them, shifting the question from what people ought to have to what they can realistically claim.
Law of nature versus law of right. In philosophy, the term law of nature refers to natural law, a set of universal moral principles inherent in human nature and discoverable through reason. It holds that true laws must align with these higher moral standards. As unjust laws are considered no laws at all. In contrast, the law of nature in science refer to empirical rules that describe consistent patterns in natural world, such as gravity. Meanwhile, Hegel's law of right emphasized that freedom becomes real only when individuals will harmonize with rational social institutions, families, civil society, and also state. Enemy and human rights. Both human rights and enemy consist the moral and social value that keep a community strong. Emily Durkheim described an enemy as a state where social rules and moral values weaken, often during times of rapid change. When this happens, people may feel lost and disconnected. Enemy can also threaten human rights because laws cannot function without scared moral values. To prevent this, societies must build unity, promote moral responsibility, and ensure fair governance to create a just, caring community. The principle of human rights serve as the foundation that ensure fairness, equality, and respect for all individuals. The first principle is equality and human dignity, which state that everyone is born free and equal in rights and must be treated with respect. The second is freedom and individual rights, allowing people to think, speak, and believe freely without fear or oppression. The principle of legal protection ensures that all individuals are equal before the law and have access to justice. It prevents unfair punishment and protects the rule of law. Lastly, social, economic, and cultural rights highlight the right to education, healthcare, employment, and participants in cultural life. Together, these principles are universal and inalienable. They guide society toward justice, peace, and equality, ensure that every human being can live with dignity and freedom.
Moving on to dimension of human rights. The dimension of human rights are best understood through the three generation of human rights, a framework developed by Czech jurist Karel Vasak in 1979, inspired by the French Revolution's ideal of liberty, equality, and fraternity. This model shows how human rights are evolved across history. The first generation, or civil and political rights, focus on liberty. These rights protect individuals from government interference, ensuring freedom of speech, religion, fair trials, and participation in government, and they allow people to live without fear or oppression. The second generation centered on equality, emphasized economic, social, and cultural rights. This requires state action to provide education, healthcare, employment, and housing, ensuring equal access to opportunities and human dignity. The third generation, known as hereditary rights, represent fraternity. These collective rights belong to entire communities, promoting peace, development, and a healthy environment. They highlight the shared responsibility of all nations to protect both humanity and the planet. Together, these three generations form the foundation of justice, linking freedom, equality, and unity in the pursuit of a humane and balanced world.
In conclusion, human rights are the foundation of equality, freedom, and dignity. They remind us that every person deserves fairness and respect, but these rights can only be protected through awareness, education, and action. As we face global challenges like migration and digital privacy, we must work together to uphold justice and compassion. Protecting human rights is not just a law, it's a shared moral duty to build a peaceful and fair world for future generations.